California, speaking of liberal states, and we're going to put a time on this one. California, how California is dealing with its homelessness crisis. Now, one of the reasons why this is meaningful to me is because we talk about taxes. We talk about how much is being allocated to, and in these recent stories, especially over these last couple of days, one of the things that we've been very, very forthcoming about is the idea that schools and teachers are going to be laid off across the board. Now, why is that important? Because we always talk about whether or not we got the resources to do this. Oh, they sending money to Ukraine, they sending money over to Israel, they sending money to Taiwan. We fight multiple wars. Politicians ain't doing nothing. They mortgaging our future, giving it to the migrant crisis. Cool, awesome. But one of the things that they take so much money out of your paycheck for, especially over in California, is for homelessness, right? And the first thing that we need to pay attention to is the fact that we know that tent cities and homelessness is running rampant all across California, including San Diego, San Francisco, and even Hollywood. And if anybody has been across Hollywood, if y'all ever been down Hollywood Boulevard, it is one of the most derelict places that I've ever visited in my entire life. Derelict places that I've ever visited inside of my entire life. But because our legislators are unwilling to deal with the homelessness crisis the way that they're supposed to, and although we've funded them and we've given them billions upon billions of dollars of both state and federal money in order to do so, it always comes back down to the people doing the thing that's in their own best interest. So this is how businesses in Hollywood is starting to deal with the homelessness crisis as far as the tent cities that often at times pop up right in front of their businesses. Check it out.
Giant planters appearing on local sidewalks, taking the place of homeless tent encampments, but it's not the city of LA that's installing them. Tonight, we've learned local business owners are behind it as they try to clear the streets of tents and save their businesses. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Caputo live in Hollywood tonight with the story. Tim.
And Mark, they of course look nice, but that's not why they're here. They're obviously very big, and check this out. They are incredibly heavy too. You could barely move them, and that's intentional because where you now see these planters, you don't see any tents.
You can barely navigate the sidewalk outside the iconic Sunset Sound studios.
We are completely barricaded by tents around here.
But in recent days, the area right by their entrance is mostly clear of the homeless encampment, thanks to the gigantic planters purposefully placed to make popping a tent nearly impossible. An expensive fix that businesses like Sunset Sound believe is worth the money.
We're not trying to displace anybody. It's more that we need to be able to get in our facility. This is a private studio right here, and you cannot even walk in because there's tents all through here.
In fact, there's now multiple planters outside several different businesses on Sunset, and people who live around here have taken notice.
Sometimes I got to walk on the street to get around it, so now it's just cleared out. So I don't know what that portion is about, but this one is very obvious to me.
Sunset Sound in particular has endured ongoing issues with the...
Do y'all know what engineering is? Do you really, outside of the definition of reality, do y'all know what engineering is? All engineering is solving for a problem, both current and that you don't even know exists yet. So, for example, a lot of people didn't realize that they wanted a smartphone or that they really needed a touchscreen smartphone until at the time Steve Jobs invented it for them. Now, they can't live without it. They don't even know. A lot of these people that are newer to the game, such as my daughter, can't even imagine and don't even know what they would ever do without a smartphone, right? It's no different from homelessness in tent cities. How do you prevent a problem that you can't necessarily solve for when it comes to it being public property, like, for example, tents on the sidewalk, because the private property is the actual studio. The public property is a sidewalk. And so how do you get your legislators to solve for a problem? Well, you don't ask the legislators to solve for the problem. You start to solve it for yourself, right? And so that's what engineering is. It's an engineering mindset. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually putting pen to paper. And that's why they have different types of engineers. You got civil engineers, you got software engineers, you got mechanical engineers. And so every last one of these people specialize in whatever it is that they're trying to solve for and making it a much easier, more pleasant, nicer to use, more profitable situation for the people that are. So what I call these people are unhousing engineers or sanitation engineers. You know how y'all really a janitor and you put on your resume, oh man, I'm a sanitation. No, you're not a sanitation engineer. It's called a janitor. But these people are called tent city unhoused sanitation engineers because they're solving for a problem that your legislators that make an egregious amount of money and get a lot of y'all tax dollars ultimately refuse to address.
Going issues with the ever-present homelessness right outside their studio. There's been fires and tents that spread to the building, break-ins where priceless equipment used to make legendary songs were stolen, all of it impacting their business.
So when Miley Cyrus or Taylor Swift or those artists come in, or Elton John, it's like that means the world to us. And they want to come here, but to be attacked or see nudity or crime, like that's not conducive.
Imagine being Elton John and you going into a legendary studio over in Hollywood in order to record, and you making a memorable moment, and you pull up and you can't get past the tent city in order to go into the studio. Imagine being a business owner that wants to work with and record with a legendary artist, and you can't because of a homelessness crisis that's happening right outside your door.
To being creative or feeling safe.
Drew Dempsey says one young woman who said it was her dream job to work at Sunset Sound recently quit because she didn't feel safe on these streets after dark. Businesses frustrated the city isn't doing more, and they're taking matters into their own hands. Those who live nearby appreciate the delicate balance of this never-ending battle.
I may understand the business point of view, pay a lot here for any kind of space, any kind of land, so you want it to be clean and inviting to your customers. But then again, at the same time, it's inevitable. You're going to find homelessness everywhere here.
And business owners tell me the city didn't necessarily sign off on these planters being here, so we don't know exactly how they feel about all this. We did reach out to the mayor's office and other city leaders this evening to get their take on these planters popping up and if the city would do anything like potentially remove them, but we have yet to hear back. We're live tonight in Hollywood. Tim Caputo, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So let's back up for a minute, right? And let's remember, the point of this story is how is California dealing with this homelessness? And why do we put so much money in? So I wanted to first bring to your attention how businesses are solving for the problem within their own environments, within their own communities, in front of their own businesses. But I also want to point out exactly how California and other cities are leveraging your dollars, your tax dollars, that's being distributed under your nose to eradicate homelessness. Check it out.
Is revealing that after the city of LA shelled out $800 million to house the homeless, hundreds of apartments and motel rooms acquired with that money are sitting empty right now. Joining us now is reporter Jamie Page, whose team at the West Side Current has this exclusive reporting, which you can read online right now. Jamie, thank you for this important reporting. Can you give us sort of the bottom line version for people that may not have read it?
Yeah, the high view is that the city spent $800 million on properties that go anywhere from motels and hotels to high-end luxury.
Listen, y'all. Listen. This is a real number. Because we always say, oh, man, we can fix it. We can throw money at it. Chicago is literally going down the exact same path. He got voted down. But that doesn't mean he's going to stop. He said that he's dedicated to this. Brandon Johnson. Karen Bass, Los Angeles, mayor of Los Angeles, $800 million thrown at this nonsense, and it is vacant. It's vacant. Let me say this again, $800 million. I've read reports that the state of California annually at points have spent upwards of almost $28 billion over the years to address homelessness, and it's got nothing but worse. Brandon Johnson over in Chicago is trying to leverage and then raise taxes for both businesses and residents, as though y'all not taxed already enough, in order to do some of the same programs. And I'm wondering who got this $800 million? Listen, this is not a small amount of money. Everybody everywhere is making money except for the people that's supposed to be utilizing the services and the taxpayers that's supposed to be creating a better environment. $800 million in one city. One city spent $800 million. And then all of the buildings got tagged right outside the crypto arena. It's crazy. Crazy, bro.
Street buildings that still remain empty. We started reporting on this a year ago. My partner, Chris LeGras, decided to drive to a $50 million apartment building just out of curiosity to see what our taxpayer money was buying. And when he went there, it was empty. So him and I started driving around the city to go and look at other buildings. And subsequently, we found that hundreds of rooms remain empty. Again, some in high-end luxury buildings that that nobody is living in to this day. And I do want to say an important part of this research is we went during the day, during the week, just to see what kind of construction or activity was taking place. And only one location that we went to did we come across some construction workers.
So here's my question. As we know that this is taking place and that countless dollars are being used, spent recklessly, and being leveraged in order to continue to keep y'all running in the Victim Olympics, here's my question. How come ain't none of y'all protesting about this? Y'all show up for every single thing that's not relevant in society, but nobody is actually showing up to highlight the recklessness and hold your legislators accountable for what you not getting in services, but that you spending in monies in order to eradicate a problem that's never going to be eradicated. Let me say that again. $800 million. This is not a joke. This is not a game.
At all locations.
We all drive by homeless people every single day. We also have talked to so many officials who say, if only we had a place to put them. There's no place to put them, which is why we have to leave them on the street. So how is this possible?
It's what we are asking ourselves and what I ask myself. I live in Venice, and when I see all the time the crisis that happens on our street firsthand. It's why we started the West Side Current. 5 people a day die on our streets, and we drove to luxury buildings, to hotel rooms that remain empty, vacant.
So, and you also found that the city was way overpaying for some of these properties, too.
Yes. In some cases, millions of dollars. And it's in our reporting. And I think people, if you can, go to westsidecurrent.com and look at this, because we give you plenty of examples of where properties we paid millions of dollars. In some cases, the developers bragged about setting records in the zip codes that they had sold the properties to HACLA.
So we know that this project, Home Key, was sort of an extension of the pandemic. It's something that Governor Newsom talked about often at different events. What is the city saying about this? What is the governor's office saying about this? What are they going to do next?
They're all finger pointing, which is what we typically see as journalists, right? It's this person's problem. It's this other person's problem. I do want to say that the Pico location that I see in those images that you show, there was a ribbon cutting with the governor on the top of that building, the Pico building. So the governor himself has been to this building that is part of our investigation. Again, a lot of finger pointing going on. HACLA says they buy the buildings. It's the city department that is supposed to be filling them. The city is saying that they're stalling because there's construction projects that need to be done. Again, in some of these brand new buildings, we're scratching our head asking ourselves what construction needs to be done. It has a certificate of occupancy. So, yeah, a lot of questions that we're still looking to answer. This is the first of a 3-part series, but we know that there's many stories to come. This location that we just saw where the hazmat signs are still up, that building's been empty for years. The other location that you saw, that 121 room motel remains empty 2 years after the city acquired it.
Yeah, that Pico location, I was at that ribbon cutting as well, and towards some of the property, and these are nice places, right, that are just as nice as, you know, many luxury apartments that are very expensive in places like the West Side, and yet it's crazy to think that these people sitting on the streets, dying on the streets when that place is empty, and we spent so much money on it.
And it doesn't even matter. You know why? You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because we know that you're not going to care. Right after we get done doing this video, right after we get done doing this recording, we know that people are going to forget over in that particular city, and they're not going to care, and they're going to move on with their lives without holding their legislators accountable. $800 million and more down the drain.